having a nice and blessed day. My name BTD. Welcome back to BTD Reds. Today we got the homies from Top 10 Nerd once again. Today it's called Top 10 Villains That Need Their Own Movie. So I would say Joker, but Joker get his movie October. So who else? Joker, he get his October. Who else? I will honestly like a Magneto solo film that it focused on him. And, his kids, Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, so that'd be nice. But yeah, Killmonger, but he's dead, so whatever. But yeah, let's begin, man.
Well, we love a good superhero story. Sometimes fans and audiences of the comic book genre just want to know more about the villains that torment our noble vigilantes. When you're a character like Batman and have a diverse selection in your rogues gallery, it's not hard to completely fall in love with the weird and wacky and straight up sinister baddies that can come out of the woodwork. So today we are diving into hypothetical land and counting down our picks for the top 10 supervillains that need their own movie. These are villains that are not just defined by their superhero opposition. These are villains who could manage to pull in audiences on their own, and a few villains who are curveballs that we think could have a great solo narrative feature all on their lonesome. And by the way, we're not just looking at movies. TV and digital series are up for debate here as well. And be sure that you guys stick around till the end of the video to tell us who you think should have made our list. So with that in mind, let's get to it.
Aight. Dun 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 dun.
Starting us off in at number 10, the Joker. Joker starts off our list since the Clown Prince of Crime is getting his own film, starring Joaquin Phoenix as the titular character. Being one of the most fascinating villains to ever work his way into the panels of comic books, the Joker was created by Bill Finger, Bob Kane, and Jerry Robinson in 1940, debuting in Batman issue 1. Initially planned to have been killed off after his debut, due to editorial intervention, he stuck around to torment the Dark Knight further, eventually becoming a psychotic criminal mastermind obsessed with Batman, an antithesis and nemesis to the Cape Crusaders' ideologies and methods, the unstoppable force to Batman's immovable object. After Heath Ledger's famous portrayal of the character in Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, it's hard to see anyone else pulling off the Clown Prince of Crime in such a similar fashion, much to Suicide Squad and Jared Leto's dismay. But with an actor the likes of Phoenix, and with the film departing from the superhero genre to be more of a crime drama in vein of Scorsese films, we're excited to see what director Todd Phillips can pull off with the beloved baddie. Moving on to number 9, Kingpin. In 2015, Netflix and Marvel released a Daredevil series, one that received a lot of favorable reviews and introduces to a live-action.
Kingpin get his own movie. I mean, I did think about it, but I actually would enjoy it.
Version of Kingpin, aka Wilson Fisk, played by Vincent D'Onofrio, that fans could not get enough of. After the first season,
we skipped that. Yes, I know. YouTube Premium.
And there was even talk amongst the show's fans about a desire to see a Fisk spin-off, with D'Onofrio's portrayal giving the villain so much depth. According to the showrunner on the series, this version of Fisk wasn't just about conquering the city and making a lot of money. His story in the series was also a love story, a tale of how he met his wife Vanessa and fell in love, and ultimately, as many comic fans know, a story of loss too. The show was very much a crime drama as much as it was about superheroes and villains, which makes us feel like one day it would be amazing to see a standalone show or film featuring a Kingpin like the one that we saw on the streaming service before it was officially cancelled.
Right.
Moving on to number 8, Catwoman. When Selina Kyle first debuted in the comics in Batman issue 1 in 1940, she was one of the Cape Crusaders' most charismatic villains, a romantic interest that Batman would constantly find himself seduced by when thwarting her criminal plans. While these days she's much more of an anti-hero, in the cinematic adaptations we've seen of the character in Batman films, her villainous dynamic has always been explored. In 2004, we were treated to one of the worst comic book movies of all time though, Catwoman, as a standalone movie, starring Academy Award winner Halle Berry. The idea of a Catwoman standalone film has been practically taboo ever since, despite us getting a version of Selina Kyle in Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy that was decent. courtesy of Anne Hathaway. At the end of the day though, the prospect of a Catwoman movie is something that DC fans would absolutely adore to see done correctly. Maybe with DC's future Gotham City Sirens film, the opportunity for a standalone Catwoman movie may become a possibility, if whoever plays Selena Kyle manages to enthrall audiences, similar to how Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn has a whole slate of upcoming DCEU films in the pipeline. Regardless, it's safe to assume that if the Catwoman movie ever gets greenlit again in the future, it definitely won't stoop as low as that 2004 film. That's for damn sure. And at 7, Poison Ivy. Poison Ivy might not be the first character you think of for a list like this, but hear us out. Pamela Isley was a botanist in Gotham City obsessed with plants, ecological extinction, and environmentalism. Her post-Crisis on Infinite Earth's origin story tells of a woman who grew up with emotionally distant parents, thrived at advanced botanical biochemistry, and was injected with poisons and toxins as an experiment by her college professor, Jason Woodrue, later known as the Floronic Man. That caused her transformation and gave her powers. She would become an eco-terrorist, often being a philanthropist towards conservation efforts all across the globe. She's a more nuanced character than she's often depicted in some of her comic storylines, despite gaining more popularity alongside Harley Quinn, her sometimes ally, sometimes romantic interest. Ivy is a character we would love to see more in depth, and a film revolving her or a series would surely dive into more fascinating aspects of her character. A villain with a point, and one who isn't just committing crimes for personal gain. And at number 6, Ozymandias. Speaking of villains who don't commit crimes for personal gain, Ozymandias definitely fits that bill. Also known as Adrian Veidt, Ozymandias is from Watchmen, a character whose superhero alias was taken from the famous poem of the same name by Shelley, which explores the fleeting nature of empire. Now, Veidt was a member of the Crime Busters, the successors to the Minutemen superhero team in this alternate version of 1980s New York City. He's called the smartest man on the planet, and is one of the only heroes to reveal his identity after the Keene Act, a government-enforced registration act of sorts in which non-government affiliated acts of costume adventuring had been outlawed. Now, during the events of the original Watchmen story, Veidt would concoct a plan in order to end the energy crisis, to stop the Cold War and arms race, and find a way to come about world peace, all by bringing Earth's nations together over a common extraterrestrial threat that he fabricated himself through a series of global disasters. Once again, he is a villain with a point, and a complex character who would be utterly fascinating to see a more in-depth adaptation of. Also, a side note, Jeremy Irons is playing a version of him in the upcoming Watchmen TV series on HBO. So I don't know about all you, but I am pretty jazzed about that. And hey, with a lead like Irons, maybe the new Watchmen show will fill our desire for an Ozymandias-centered live-action narrative after all.
No ad.
Moving on to number 5, Magneto. We've got...
God damn it. Bruh. No, really want me to get YouTube Premium.
And plenty of adaptations over the years of X-Men's main big bad, Magneto himself. From Ian McKellen to Michael Fassbender, there has been no shortage of talent when portraying the iconic villain. Magneto is yet another example of a villain with a point. Many consider him to be the greatest villain of all time in comics, or at least IGN ranked him as such, but many fans do agree. Magneto is a fellow who believes that mutants are evolutionarily superior to humans, and because of all the terrible things humans have done to mutants, he believes that the possibility of a peaceful coexistence between the two could never be a reality. He's attempted to conquer the world in the name of mutants' rights, in an attempt to become the dominant species. He is a Holocaust survivor with cynical ideologies, determined to protect mutants from genocide. He's a character whose origins have been compared to civil rights leader Malcolm X and the founder of the Jewish Defense League, having always pushed for a more aggressive approach when it came to the rights of mutants in the Marvel Universe. Sometimes a villain, sometimes an anti-hero, fans of the X-Men and Marvel in general would surely pay good money to see a solo Magneto film, with the character having gained a popularity similar in size to DC's Joker over the years. Up next, number 4, Galactus. 5 years after Marvel launched their flagship superhero team, the Fantastic Four, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby collaborated on an antagonist for the quartet that aimed to break the supervillain mold of the tyrant with godlike stature and power. The result was Galactus, a cosmic villain inspired by biblical stories, who was an actual god of sorts according to his creators. Originally an explorer called Galen of Ta, Ta being his home planet, he was a character who existed in the Marvel Universe prior to the Big Bang. As a cosmic cataclysm begins killing off life in that universe, he and other survivors depart from their planet when they are engulfed in the Big Crunch. Galen does not die though. Instead, he is bonded with the sentience of the universe, changing and gestating for billions of years in an egg made of the debris from his ship. He eventually emerges as Galactus, starving for sustenance, needing to consume whole planets in order to stay alive. But his hunger is insatiable, and he becomes necessary for the balance of the universe, eventually enlisting a herald to help him find planets suitable for consumption. I mean, come on, tell me how that is not an interesting story ripe with cinematic potential. Now, known as the Devourer of Worlds, he has been endowed with the power cosmic and has complete mastery over it, appearing to each civilization as an entity that resembles their own race due to him being a living force who corrects the balance between the conceptual entities of eternity and death. So, all in all, he's got a whole story there that would be amazing to dive into, even if he became a big bad in the MCU in future phases. I mean, hell, he could have a whole film like Avengers Infinity War devoted to telling his story in a similar way that we got to see Thanos' character develop. And considering that he has no moral compass and that he is outside the realm of what is ethical and is only concerned with fulfilling his hunger and maintaining balance, we could find ourselves immersed in a very fascinating story if he were to enter the cinematic universe. Up next at 3, Loki. Considering Loki is getting his own show on Disney's new streaming service, this number should not come as a surprise to anybody. Loki has long been a fan favorite in the MCU. So much so that we've seen the character die twice, and yet Tom Hiddleston's trickster god persists. While some critics may argue that the MCU has a bit of a bumpy history with their big bads in their movies, not including a certain purple Mad Titan that is, Loki has continuously been an antagonist that not only ups the threat level for our beloved heroes, but also manages to be incredibly charismatic, three-dimensional, and overall a joy to watch. He's become a selling point of sorts, a character that fans can really get excited over, even if he's making a small cameo, like he did in Avengers Endgame. So to argue that he deserves his own show or movie is kind of a given. And hey, while there's a decent chance that we won't see a standalone Loki film anytime in the near future, I'm sure his solo series will definitely suffice in the meantime.
Y'all kill me the ass, man. Yeah. How about I get YouTube Premium?
Moving on to number 2, Lobo.
Oh, that was a magic ad too. Speaking of magic, not speaking of magic, I just brought the shit up. But whatever. That magic. How y'all feel? If y'all into magic, how y'all feel about the anime that Magic and the Russo brothers, the individual who directed the Avengers movie? How y'all feel about that on Netflix? Y'all think it'll be good? Put in the comments here if y'all interested in seeing it.
If Deadpool can have his own standalone films, DC's Lobo could definitely stand a chance at holding his own up on the big screen. While he might not be the most obvious choice for this list, consider this. First appearing in Omega Men issue 3 from 1983, what a cover, Lobo was introduced as a hardened villain, and after a stint in obscurity, the character would get his own comic in the 90s, having been shaped into more of an anti-hero. Born on a utopian planet called Sarnia, Lobo works as an interstellar bounty hunter and mercenary. That in itself could prove to provide a whole story world to explore. But really, at the end of the day, the most compelling thing about Lobo is his twisted personality. He loves violence. He loves being intoxicated. His name literally translates into he who devours your entrails and thoroughly enjoys it. He's the last of his kind, having committed mass genocide on all the other Sarsians just for some kicks, unleashing a plague of, get this, flying scorpions. And similar to Deadpool, his stories often feature a whole lot of comic relief, making him very enjoyable to read, depending on, well, who's penning him. Plus, dude is immortal. He's been blown to bits before and has regenerated, meaning he could get himself into some big trouble on screen that, could always work as a nice little backdoor for writers to use to keep the narrative going, especially if he got his own show instead of a film. Just a thought. And last but not least, in at number 1, Dr. Doom.
Yeah, I kind of figured.
The ultimate villain with a point.
Yeah.
Sorry, how could we not? Ever since the news broke that Disney was going to be acquiring the rights for certain
Dr. Doom on the top villains for Marvel, Dr. Doom will probably be at the very top on my list anyway. He'd be number 1. Pretty sure he'd be number 1 on a lot of people's list. You could debate between him and Galactus. You could debate about it, but for me, Dr. Doom, then Galactus. That is me.
Marvel characters in Fox's possession, aka the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, fans have been overjoyed with the potential that brings, and obsessing over how exactly the MCU will integrate them into their cinematic universe. Doom first appeared in 1962's The Fantastic Four issue 5, with co-creator Stan Lee calling him and his alias, I quote, eloquent in its simplicity, magnificent in its implied menace. And he couldn't be more correct about that. Victor Von Doom was modeled after death, something without mercy with no visible human flesh in order to fully stress that association. After becoming deformed, something he would always blame Reed Richards for instead of himself, he would become obsessed with being superior, overcoming that one flaw, paranoid and a complete perfectionist whose greatest weakness was his own arrogance.
Abracadabra. Magic. Magic the Gathering.
Okay, look at Magic. You pissed me off.
He's manipulative, but sticks to a strict code of honor at all times, which has led to the character doing things like saving the lives of heroes when they had previously saved his. Looking at you, Steve Rogers. He will also not attack an opponent who is weakened or at a severe disadvantage, because he believes that any victory that results from that would be hollow and meaningless. He's attacked villains who have tried to kill the Fantastic Four simply because he wants to be the one who finally gets to defeat them for good. And he genuinely believes that he is the best person to rule over the world and bring it peace. And quite frankly, that isn't a completely insane opinion. Twisted, yes, but not entirely impractical. Anywho, a villain like that is someone who would make for one hell of a meaty story, and Doom is definitely a character we would love to see headline his own film one day. Alright, there we have it, friends. Now it is your turn. What other supervillains do you think are deserving of getting their own solo movie, or even their own series? Give us a shout in those comments below and share your 2 cents. If you dug this video, spread that love, hit that like button, and be sure to subscribe to Top 10 Nerd if you haven't already. We'd love it if you stuck around with us more, and we even have a nifty little playlist currently flashing on your screen somewhere where I'm pointing, and it's filled with a bunch of other videos that might tickle your fancy. In the meantime though, thanks.
Alright. And that excellent video for guys the Top 10 Nerd. What other villains that could be on top 10? I mean, personally, I would have mind seeing a Dark Side movie. That'd be dope. Unless Luthor movie would be dope too. Like Luthor. Leslie to be dope. Who else? I mean, Deathstroke. Deathstroke probably an interesting movie. I know you're gonna be in Titans, the newer season. I know you're gonna be in that, but like I don't know about his movie. There were rumors at some point he gonna get a movie, but I think they canceled it or whatever. But whatever, yeah. But anyway, guys, if you like my reaction, drop a like for your boy, subscribe so you can join the family. Click the bell to know I upload. Comment and tell me what supervillain you thought should be on the list. Follow me on Twitter for future updates on the channel. And with all that being said, guys, I'll see y'all later, man. Peace. I would solo a Dr. Doom movie. Eagle double G.
Top dog, by them all, yeah, I'm burning it up. DPGC, you should be turning it up. CBT, LBC, yeah, we hooking back up. And when they bang us in the club, baby, you got to get up. Eagle double G. Top dog, by them all, yeah, I'm burning it up. DPGC, you should be turning it up. CBT, LBC, yeah, we hooking back up. And when they bang us in the club, baby, you got to get up.